everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Animal Rights Show. And today we'll be talking about holiday blues and festive moral dilemmas. With Christmas around the corner, many vegans find themselves struggling, and this time of the year may be especially hard even for those who don't celebrate Christmas. All this festive atmosphere, as festive it can be during a pandemic, of course, advertisements with offensive content everywhere, family gatherings, invitation to parties and dinners where we know that other animals' bodies and secretions will be consumed. The notion that even more individuals are getting killed around this time of the year, and people around us celebrating love and compassion by eating other animals may let us feel lonely, alienated, even guilty for not being able to do more to stop other animal suppression. So what could we do in order to survive and even thrive during the festive season? As you know, we'll appreciate and value your input, so please say hi and let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, hello everyone. I see Bernie and Tone have joined us. Kristen Hess, it looks like, is in the chat, and we have some news around that. It is my mom, otherwise known as Kristen Hess's birthday.
Never.
What do you say we sing her happy birthday?
Yeah.
A one, a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you.
Oh, this is a good start.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear mom.
Kristen.
Happy birthday to you. Wow.
I'm so sorry,
definitely-
Kristen.
I hope this is not representative of your whole birthday. Oh, hope the thoughts there. The thoughts there.
It usually gets #1 next year. That.
Singing over. Clearly, syncing live stream over or singing over a live stream is a tricky one. You're getting lots of wishes coming in, Mom. You might not be able to see all these on Facebook, but Elliot, Deb, and there you go. So happy birthday. I'll hold it close to heart which number this is.
Deb says one of her pooches is howling.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Well,
it's like
Jeremy has that effect on people when he talks. So.
Is that a jab at my American accent?
Aluminium.
Yeah, it came up yesterday, didn't it? Looks like I was talking to my mom earlier. She's got a vegan cupcake planned for later, so that's a good one to have in the mix. To get us all the festive spirit, I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I think we need to unpack some of these pictures. I don't know if anybody. This is probably one of the most important issues to unpack as animal advocates: is how to keep our furry family members safe from the attack of the tree.
What is that? What is that? It's a tree upside down. What's going on?
The lengths people have to go to.
It almost seems like they've got it set up so that there's a chair to and a camera so they can see the cat attacking the tree, basically, like frame by frame. I'm not. Anyway, there's a few of them here. Let's have a look.
Maybe we can get a cat to attack that
I think this is a good design because it's at least facing right side up. I think that's an improvement.
Somebody's got a green screen underneath that one, Jeremy. That second one.
Probably could.
Yeah.
Furniture? I don't see this being a particularly effective defense. Has anybody else tried this?
I'm sure it's not.
Definitely not for a cat member.
I go just encourage them, like, "Ooh, what's this new furniture here?" And like, "Ooh, there's a tree."
Well, there's a rather large dog there. He's gonna jump over that, no problem, isn't he?
And then you don't just have a knocked over tree, you have a knocked over tree and a knocked over chair.
Yeah.
Just kind of the cage technique.
That's more like it, isn't it? That's a good one.
Now that's thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saran wrap?
Hey, going back to the one with the Alsatian, Jeremy. We should have a caption contest. What is the Alsatian?
What is
Yeah,
she
what are they
thinking?
thinking?
You rotter!
I wonder if anybody's tried any of these in the comments. That would be curious. But I like this one because this is ingenious. A friend of ours pointed this out. You can just literally chuck this in the attic and then bring it out again next year. There's no setup. It's just
That'd be good for me because I'm not really a fan of putting up Christmas ornaments. I'm a bit
Can I just point out though, cellophane wrap or whatever you want to call it is not environmentally very.
Yeah, terrible
Very
waste of plastic and all that, isn't it? Yeah.
as is cutting down trees every year, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Trees have rights. Trees
Yeah,
have rights.
we'll make the environmental points. You just have a good laugh, mate. Don't you worry.
Yeah, they're just gonna climb up that. I think this is just encouragement.
Yeah.
Is that even a tree? I mean, it reaches a point where it's like, again, caption competition.
When is a tree no longer a tree?
That's a bit more environmentally friendly, isn't it?
See, that dog is saying, "Look, mate, you've lost it now. You've completely lost it."
And the human child in the picture, you can tell they've just given up. They're like, I don't even get a Christmas tree this year. I mean, this is my personal favorite.
I love
This one takes a little bit to unpack, I think, but I think for anyone who has furry family members, they've probably seen some reactions to the vacuum cleaner. So,
Oh, okay, a deterrent.
Deterrent.
It wouldn't be too peaceful for Christmas though, because the best deterrent would be to have the vacuum cleaners switched on, wouldn't it?
yeah, that's gonna affect things.
And whizzing around the tree.
Like the trains.
Also, who has two vacuum cleaners? That's someone who really likes cleaning.
I was wondering that.
It's got a sign on it. It says his and hers. It says.
Yeah, the comments are hilarious. On the right, you can see "You shall not pass." Vacuum cleaner said. I like the wall installation. This is a nice, clean look. Still looks like a tree, out of reach. I could still see this causing issues, but
Is that just a picture of a tree? That one?
Yeah. Is that,
yeah, it was. It took me a while to figure this one out. I think it's literally just mounted on the wall there. Yeah. Again, this is really kind of giving up on the whole tree idea.
It's quite creative.
Yeah, the vacuum is saying, you can't get near me now, you sucker. And the cat is going,
The cat's like, well, watch me.
Office tree. Still tree. I'm like it. It's small, but it's still tree. Enclosed tree. Well lit.
oh, that's the Doctor Who version.
I like that.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, welcome.
Jennifer?
We're just catching up on how to guard our trees from our furry family members. This is quite
that
an
looks like-
artistic shot, I thought.
Cat heaven.
Probably a hypnotic effect looking up.
Yeah, they look mesmerized.
Cactus tree? I guess it's a line of defense. I'm not sure from an animal rights perspective if that's fair to be dangling ornaments on a pokey object, but we'll have to unpack that from a theory perspective later. Caption competition.
Look at that little face.
These dog persons are just going to see that as a challenge, though, aren't they?
Well, and does anybody notice the lean to the tree? This is clearly a 2020 Christmas tree. There's something wonky about that tree.
Yeah.
It's not a tree. I just have to push back on this one. It's not a tree. It's just like
There is a tree ornament in there.
That's still a challenge for cats, though. One they would love.
Yeah.
true.
Vegan Pixie Warrior saying, my cat fur persons aren't bothered by our tree. But it's funny because in terms of this this topic, I actually heard on the radio this morning that some people, one of the presenters said they don't have a tree because they have a cat. So it's very obviously on a lot of people's minds, I suppose. Just hear a crash.
Green
tree
towel.
on.
Does green towel count as a tree? What's the vote?
Mm,
I just
Not really.
this is a pretty average effort, I have to say. Just drink some lights over a green towel.
could do better.
Yeah, the cat's embarrassed by being in the picture.
Shower. I don't know how you're going to take a shower. Hopefully this isn't their only shower. Again, caption competition.
That's
Definitely
an
not.
amazing caption. That would be amazing.
This is a double line of defense, though, isn't it? Because they can't get past the glass, but then they're not going to want to go in the shower to begin with, right? Generally. I know.
Yeah.
Not saying all cats are the same,
cats.
but
Yeah. Pickle loves getting in the shower.
this is a good favorite for the fox respecters out there, especially with all the fox ban
He's a
developments
fox.
here in the UK and the portal effect. Some planning went into this one.
Yeah, not much though.
Let's see your setup, mate.
They just chopped the top off and then stuck that next to the bottom bit.
I would be lucky if I started the weekend if I finished with output like this. Cutting it, getting it up there, getting the lighting right. I don't know.
I suppose everybody's thinking, does the fox live there? I suppose.
Clearly, this tree has not been adequately defended. I think it's the message from this one. And in the first picture, they're looking somewhat pleased, but in the second picture, they're looking like a pleased cat. I can't zoom in, I don't think, but they're looking very pleased with themselves. That was just have to say.
They're doing that.
Cage. I think, yeah, this is maybe a good one to end it on here. It is a tree.
I didn't get that. I thought, what's the deal with the air freshener? And then I realized that the air freshener is a Christmas tree.
Anyway, I think we can leave it there.
Somebody's pining for the fjords with that one.
Oh, starting with the puns. Well, we're obviously not here to talk about Christmas trees the whole session. As Nell said, I mean, the whole goal of this session is to create a space for us to share how we're navigating the holidays. I think as animal advocates, we always have to be aware of certain situations that before we were animal advocates may not have affected us, and now they do. Just open up the dialogue. I know for me, one that's continued to I've become more aware of is the having an animal's body on display makes things very visceral for me. So I kind of like to think of this as a step-by-step process. First, think of what environment we're going to be in, and then the potential things that may upset us, how to respond to those, and then lastly is to kind of communicate that to our loved ones. So, I mean, I know for a lot of us, I think because of COVID, we may not be having the same interactions as we've had in the past. But I'm curious in the comments, is anybody kind of connecting with loved ones over the holidays? And if so, is there you're going to have a vegan meal, a non-vegan meal, or some of the compromises around that? I know in the past I've compromised and had a non-vegan meal. I think going forward, I would probably go for a walk and pop back after the meal and still spend time with them that way. And try to talk to them about it in advance versus on the day when I think it's higher stress. How do other people on the team deal with this? I mean, there's no magic bullets, but definitely a lot of ideas of how we can tackle this.
Well, Jeremy, you started off by saying that one of the problems is that you've got the dead body of other animals on show, which is obviously going to be the case all year round. It's just that I suppose. But it's a bit like that in Thanksgiving, I suppose, in the States, is the fact that they make a ritual of it, bring the body to the table and place it right in the middle. And, that's not usual all year round. So I seem to have seen comments in vegan spaces that's the thing that's particularly gets to people a little bit because, season of goodwill and all that. And they're almost mocking the entire idea of it in this kind of ostentatious show of of the body kind of thing.
I think it's more true at the holidays. I think I think to your point, it does happen year round. Barbecues are obviously another big one. But in my experience, like you say, Thanksgiving and also Christmas, that's where it's particular, here's someone's body, let's put it on the table. It's a real central part of the, celebration, which maybe we could unpack a bit.
Well, unless you've got that situation of a spit roast, to use that horrible term, then a barbecue is not the same. I mean, you've got burger shapes, pates, and sausage shapes and everything, whereas you've got a massive turkey's body in the middle of the table.
The barbecues I'm thinking of usually have a bird involved, so you usually see the,
Oh.
And I think as we progress through these issues, I mean, I think a lot of us probably see cow's milk, and that doesn't exactly evoke pleasant thought these days. So I think it is a continuum. I mean, when we're new vegans, maybe we're less kind of, viscerally connected to those things. And as the years go on, I know it's become more intense for me. I don't know what others' thoughts are.
It has become more intense for me too, because I remember during my first years as a vegan, I would compromise and accept invitations, provided that there was a vegan food for me. But then I felt that I was compromising too much. So I stopped doing that, and I canceled Christmas altogether. I wouldn't accept any invitations for birthdays, Christmas, whatever, unless they were from vegan people. And when I started getting active, I've met a lot of other activists that were vegan, and then things became like pleasant again, the holiday season, because we could get together. Last year, for example, I invited at my place a large number of activists, so we had a great time. We all cooked and shared food and drank together. And on New Year's Eve, which is even a bigger event here in Greece, we did the same thing to some other activists' house. So it was the community was coming together to go through the festive season, and it was nice. So it depends a lot on what kind of people you have around you, and if you can reach to other vegans for spending some time together.
Yeah, similar to you actually, Nella. When I was first vegan, and I think, and I'd like to ask Roger's opinion on this actually, because I've been vegan quite a long time now. I think back when I was first vegan, or even when I was just meat-free from being quite young, a young sort of teenager, I think I just kind of accepted that everyone else wasn't meat-free or vegan around me, and because I hardly knew anyone who was, and so it became a matter of just accepting, like, I'm different, they're normal, and I'm the odd one out, and this is my problem, so therefore I just suck it up and get on with it. And I just learned how to shut it out, and I would literally be in all my family gatherings, friends, get together, work situations where we'd go out for meals and Christmas lunches and things like that, and it would just be I've even had people going, oh, are you okay with me eating this next? And I'll be like, don't worry, I won't look. And I've learned to sort of shut it out, and that became my way of dealing with it. But now as time's gone on, I feel like it's got a lot harder, and now I feel like, if anything, I don't want to sit there and normalize it. I really don't want to put up with it and show you that I'm comfortable with it, because I was going totally against my own values with that. And I think it does get harder as the more you go along with it, I think. But it is very difficult and I feel I've almost set a precedent for myself, because now my family and my friends just expect me to be just okay with it. And it's like, now it's even harder for me to say, do you know what, I'm uncomfortable with this, I don't want to be around it. So yeah, that's my experience. And I just wonder, with you, Roger, having been a vegan even longer still, did you just find a way of, again, just fitting in because you were kind of, maybe the odd one out?
Well, I was really lucky because I went vegan after I'd left home. And so I also went straight into the activist community. And so it was never an issue, because I would not be going back home, So we never did this kind of family thing of everybody wherever they were would come back for Christmas. We never did that, so it was never an issue. So we didn't really have a very close family situation. my brother wanted that. He wanted the family to be close knit and even live in the same village and all that kind of stuff. Whereas not none of the rest of us wanted to do that. And so our family just spread out. And so when I became vegan, my family became the activist community. And in fact, I remember saying to people, a longtime activist called John Page, I said, I regard you as a brother. I don't regard my brother as my biological brother. So it was interesting because when I then went into sociology, I learned about the ideology of the family, and I'd kind of rejected that anyway. And it was really good because the family could be quite an oppressive place. Mine never was, because it was never there. In fact, I didn't leave home. My home left me. I was working in a place near Derby in the Midlands, and my mother was in Nottingham in the Midlands, and we used to rent a house. And she got promotion, and she wanted to leave and go to the south, and I said I want to stay. So my family left me. That was pre-vegan, and so I was embedded into the vegan activist community for all my Christmases. So it was never an issue. I was kind of really lucky, I suppose.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I think hopefully as part of the show we've kind of created our own little family, because the term I like that I've heard that I think works well for this is the idea of creating our own social worlds. And that sometimes that's our biological family, and sometimes it's a friends before we were vegan, and sometimes it's a new group, and maybe those groups overlap, or maybe there's more of a direct cutover from one group to the other. Any number of things can happen. I think we've got some comments flowing real quickly. I mean, I think Elliot's just saying that it is a very heightened situation, it sounds like, for them, because tables are a very special occasion. Usually they don't sit around the table, with their families. So it's, or loved ones. I think one strategy could be inviting our family to have a vegan meal, because I think that takes away a lot of that tension, and if those topics do come up, it's not over someone's body, which I do think puts people more on the defensive. For good reason, one might add. But Jennifer's just saying, I'm lucky because my family are happy to have a nut roast. It's just what we have. It's just we have tension in our family otherwise with general matters, which that's a good point, actually, because we have all these, how often, depending on how often we see our family, the holidays could be stressful to begin with, let alone layering on animal issues. So not that it's about us, it's about other animals, but it's all entangled. Chris is just articulating around the community meetings. Do you want to do a bit of a pitch for your live stream, Roger? No time like the present. Speaking of community meetings, I believe the elf has an announcement, which you're getting some compliments about your hat there.
Oh no, yeah. It's so I can support the elf service during the pandemic. It is. We've been in the meeting before the live stream. We've been making all kind of elf jokes. At least one of us haven't we, Wendy? But we've all gone quiet about it now. Yeah. Okay, just to kind of catch up with a couple of threads that have been going. There is a famous sociology book from the 1980s. Yeah. And it's called Imagine Communities. And of course, you've got the idea of virtual communities. So these are actually very important. When people kind of stand outside of the mainstream. And going back to what Wendy and Nella was saying, one of the VIP slogans was very much influenced by a political philosopher called Herbert Marcuse, and he talked about the Great Refusal. And I was actually an early supporter of DXE, because I thought that they embodied the Great Refusal, but then everything went a bit pear-shaped, as they often do with these big groups. But we as vegans, we refuse. The Great Refusal means we refuse what is. And we are in that situation over Christmas. Do we accept it? And as you said, Wendy, kind of be seen to normalize it? Or do we kind of think, no, I'm going to refuse this? And so you could see yourself as a refusenik in that sense, because you're just saying, look, I'm drawing a line in the sand here. I'm not going to do that. And so whatever else we decide as a family, and for this ritual and all that bit for me is not going to happen. And so I think then what vegans tend to do is step outside of that, and then they kind of do what Jeremy was saying, kind of maybe go for a walk for that period and come back afterwards. You know, I mean, it's even easier now, I suppose, because you get a text saying, you know, you're safe to return home, you know, that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think vegans are in a particularly difficult situation. One more comment before I do my advert, if I may, which is we've been talking about seeing the dead bodies of other animals. There are some vegans I know that when they become vegan, smelling things can be really upsetting. And I think some people say smelling egg products, you know, an egg being fried and this kind of stuff could be very upsetting.
It is for me, for example. It's really bad for me.
Something that you once thought was pleasant, you now think is absolutely horrible. You know, which
especially for those of us who spend time at sanctuaries, because it smells very similar. So
yeah, and like I had that experience with cow milk, because I went vegan when kind of soy milk was controversial and a lot of people didn't like it, you know. Whereas I took to it straight away. In fact, I even took well to the kind of cans of plant milk, which was kind of ground up nuts. I liked them, you know. And it was kind of, you got a can which looked like a bean can, but there was plamil in it. If you wanted cream, you would just pour it. If you wanted milk, you would water it down 50-50. But I thought it was grand, you know.
Roger, did it keep you healthy?
It did. It was very healthy. and so
I don't think Roger could get more elfy today.
No. And then I realized about 6 months later, because obviously this is interesting in movement terms about things like Challenge 22 and be vegan for 1 week, which we saw recently, and we all almost fell off our computers. And
you're sitting on your computer.
It's not enough time.
Your story has holes in it, Mr. Elf. Come on.
Our palates are trained, and so there's an element of retraining goes on when you go vegan or plant-based. And so the dietary aspect of vegan means that you change, you know, your practices. And so I came to realize within about 6 months that a bottle of cow milk actually represented to me almost like half of it was almost like grease and oil and stuff. It seems so heavy compared with soy milk. Not that I tried any. It's just even seeing it, you just think that looks really greasy and heavy and horrible compared
just being around it.
Yeah. So I think, you know, it's a real kind of thing, you know.
I think Chris has a good point here because of the COVID situation. While it may remove us from some family visiting situations, that it's actually creating some new challenges because they might be living, you know, sharing a flat with non-vegans. So actually it might be for some replacing one challenge with another. Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody wants to share some specific scenarios in the chat, we can try to unpack these because we're by no means experts, but I think by talking through these things, hopefully we can find a way forward. I think the first thing to me is identifying there might be an issue. So, and then I think we can find a way to navigate it, which is hard. When all of a sudden you're sitting at the table, you know, and it's kind of too late, and then you feel kind of committed to carry on.
I think that another thing that makes vegans struggle is that apart from the whole experience of smelling and seeing dead bodies being distressing, is that it's more inconsistent in some ways to normalize the consumption of other animals by being there. So that's how I feel. But I understand that being able to do that, to never sit at the table where other animals are served, is kind of privileged. My sister, for example, cannot do it because she has a young kid, and the kid has to socialize. She has to socialize with other parents. So it depends a lot on our situation.
Yeah.
And Jessica's got a great success story here. That may be something, I mean, I think the key, and this is something I've learned, and this goes for probably relationships in general, but especially as animal advocates, setting those barriers. And it sounds like they've said, you know, actually it's too hard, suggested separate meals, but now they're all happy to eat vegan. So it really relieves a lot of tension.
I had
So maybe that's something some people could try that.
just to talk on that. I had my early experience, and I haven't been vegan that long, just about 3 years. But my first experience as Christmas with the rest of my family members who weren't vegan was very, very difficult. And I remember one of my family members they were eating the flesh from a turkey, and they were complaining about how dry it was. And in that moment, I thought, I'm not going to tolerate this again. So the following year, I said that I'm not going to sit at a table with the body of a turkey, and I basically removed myself, and I said I'm going to go to a friend's house and be with them. And I said I'm almost taking myself out of the family structure, and it caused a bit of an issue with my one family member in particular. Is very kind of traditional, and they wanted to us all be together. And what ended up happening is that my parents didn't want me to feel isolated, so they said, we'll have a vegan meal with you, Tom, and then we'll go to the other family members and have brunch with them beforehand that's vegan. So it's kind of like everyone did spend the day, spent some time together on Christmas Day. But yeah, it was people. I was lucky that people were kind of accommodating, and we did end up having some vegan food on that day together. But
You're just a vegan bully, aren't you, Tom? You're a vegan.
just a bully.
Well, that's a key thing to unpack, isn't it? Because people think it's a matter of, and we've talked about this on past shows, that's a matter of accommodating the vegan and making sure they have something to eat. And I think most of us are probably happy not to eat anything to a certain extent and just not be around the other stuff. That's step one. And then if there's vegan food, great. But
yeah, I think because a couple of you have alluded to the boundary setting thing, and I think it's really important that we become clear on our own boundaries, because I think we're all in very unique situations, and I would hate for anyone to be getting shamed out there because they are sitting down with non-vegans and consuming, and I don't want anyone to feel that kind of shame or put that on themselves, because I think we all are in very unique situations. I think it's about trying to learn our own boundaries, get clear on what that is, be clear for yourself, and then be respectful of your own values, but then be respectful in communicating that, but also, bear in mind your own situation and what you're able to navigate within that situation as well. And it might be a question of, I won't join you for the meal, but I'll join you after for drinks if you're invited to a gathering out with friends and things like that, or
I think that's a compromise that a lot of vegans make, isn't it? That they say, well, okay, I will join you whenever I can. And I think, it's interesting though. I mean, like how many vegans kind of get a negative reaction to that, or whether people actually go, that seems fair enough. Going back to Tom, you talk about this thing about dry. That seems to be a very common thing. I remember that for years ago. And like everybody complains that turkey flesh is dry. So you've got all these rights violations, these millions of other animals being killed for stuff that most people don't really like in the first place. What's going on there?
Goes to show you culture and tradition isn't necessarily rational.
This is how.
Not that it would be rational if they tasted good. Just to clarify, but
we're just so orthodox when it comes to food, and we're just trapped in things like tradition and orthodoxy. Which is one of the stumbling blocks about veganism, of course.
And sorry, Jeremy. I was just going to say, just adding on to that point that Roger was making, I think around this time of year as well, it's all people talk about. It's like not only you seeing adverts on the telly, like continuously for other animals in so many different ways on the radio, but also everyone that you come into contact with. I've ordered my turkey. How many pounds it is? How long does it have to cook? And you're just getting this over and over again. It's all people talk about. People are just obsessed, and I think it really heightens our awareness on a daily basis. It's that accumulation of little bits of trauma every single day.
And my turkey thing just does nothing but just emphasize the property status of other animals. I was in a cafe about a week ago maybe, and two women were ordering eggs. I was away from the serving thing, and one of them wanted I think what you call sunny side up, I think, Jeremy, but the other one she said, can I have my eggs folded over? And I was so tempted to go up and say, excuse me, mate, they're not your eggs, and
just that framing itself.
Yeah.
But they do that, don't they? We've got to get the turkey, my turkey, this kind of stuff. Can I just mention,
the language is very, very strong here. Vegan Potterhead has just mentioned about the Liberation Pledge. And just to clarify, this is just a general chat about the holidays, just being a heightened time and how to navigate them, and just basically a brainstorm session. So you're welcome to share your personal situation, or you can say asking for a friend if you'd like.
Yeah,
But to me, the Liberation Pledge is actually quite analogous to some of these situations, because if we do choose not to sit with our family members, that website actually has some really good ideas. I think to me the key thing is inviting our family to have a discussion in advance, and really and I think this goes back to our foundational, and it's different than a street outreach conversation, I think, being someone who we know well, but really talking about how these things make us feel. And I also obviously want to pull things back when I do these things to an animal-centric perspective, that I feel this way because I can't help think about them type thing. And this is different to each of us, but I think if we just start talking with our family and center things in a we're all different people, but I think what works best for me is an objective, non-judgmental kind of way is going to work well. But we could do a whole session on communication. That's just obviously intertwined with this.
I think we have done, haven't we? Vegan Potterhead said about and calf's milk, and so the thing about the smell of egg seems to have resonated in the chat. But in terms of the calf's milk, it's really interesting. What we start to do in Dublin, at least I did, is start talking about cow milk as calf food, and you could tell that was really getting through to people. And we even had a few comments about, we never thought of it that way. So, well, what else do you think it is? It's calf food, and people do then kind of situate themselves in relationship to that product by thinking of it that way. Yeah, calf food. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and Deb has a situation, a story here around my family are not vegan or even vegetarian. So in past years, I've brought my own vegan food to eat and share. I don't think this has really moved the needle for them, even after our conversations about why I'm vegan. With COVID, I've been able to take part in Thanksgiving or the upcoming Christmas get-togethers. I frankly feel that I did compromise my values and felt like a traitor to other animals when I went to these gatherings. So this is to your point, Wendy, that I think there's no perfect solution to these things. And I think that the thing that I know for me is just continuing to check in with ourselves, which, Deb, it sounds like you're doing. And what we thought before these things, we may think something different after, because when we go through these situations, we'll probably learn something about ourselves. So, yeah, I guess my key takeaway is to not be too hard on yourself. We're all learning.
And I think to the point that you made earlier, Jeremy, about trying to plan ahead as much as you can to, like, if you're in a difficult situation, like you said, going for a walk. I would say, like, if you could go for a walk with a friend who's vegan, call a friend. These kind of things where you can just kind of share your experience, and have someone there to kind of you're going to speak to may kind of alleviate some of that discomfort.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there. You just made there, Tom, because a lot of these feelings that we get around what's going on, I mean, we have them all year round, of course, as vegans, but I think around this time we get them much more heightened. So we get that isolation if we're refusing or not able to socialize. Then if we do socialize, we get that alienation, like we don't fit in, they don't understand us, I don't understand them. It's that whole thing. We might be suppressing feelings of anger and sadness because we're just having to shut up and get on with it, whether that's at work or with our family or friends. We also get that guilt and shame, as Deb mentioned there, that shame you're not doing enough, or you're being a traitor. You can feel really lonely. You can feel really overwhelmed. And I think having that person or a group of people, whoever it might be, someone who you can turn to, who you trust and who will show you empathy, that's a really great antidote. Empathy is a great antidote to all of those feelings like shame and isolation and alienation and things like that. I think that connection to someone else and another group is like, I can't reiterate that enough, how important that is for all of us.
Animal use is pervasive in our society, isn't it? So we constantly have to make compromises. If we literally stopped every time we saw animal use and objected and opposed to that to the way I think that's in all of our hearts, I don't think we'd be able to function in our society. So, yeah.
You wouldn't get very far down the street, would you?
Yeah, my heart goes out to you, Deb, and everyone else. I think we all have to navigate these things. So certainly not. That's nothing to do with the trader in my book. My mom's just saying in April she's moving to Bloomington, Indiana, where Allison, her daughter, lives. And there's a wonderful farmed animal sanctuary there, Peak. And I'm excited I'll be moving into a wonderful vegan family there. So maybe even spend some of those holidays around other animals at the sanctuary, which would be brilliant, I think.
Oh, that's amazing, Kristen.
Oh, here's a cool one. The term for a vegan family, family.
I like that.
Oh,
That's new to me. I like that.
right. Noted. Stealing that one. Thanks, Elliot.
One thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Refuse. You go.
Okay. If you refuse to participate at a gathering or social event or whatever, and you try to explain beforehand why you don't want to do that, I find that most people will say, let's arrange something else together. But if they don't and they criticize you in a negative way, please don't feel bad. It's on them, it's not on you. I mean, anyone has must have the freedom to do moral choices and abide by them. And if you are respectful on communicating to others, they should be respectful to you. So if you've been mocked or harassed or whatever, it's on them, it's not on you. Because I'm saying that because I've heard a lot, especially young people, saying that they're almost bullied by friends and family around this time of year.
And that echoes, I think, what Vegan Potterhead is saying, that that basically that celebrating peace and love while eating or using other animals is the opposite. My eyebrows are permanently raised at Christmas and those eating other animals. And I'd say the same with for those who are American around the Thanksgiving, because obviously that's covering up the genocide of Native Americans. Wrap that all into that. But really, what are we celebrating here? And I think if we go to our family and in a genuine, honest way and just say, hey, can we have an animal-free meal? And they push back against that. It's like, it kind of begs the question, what's the holiday for? Is it for us to connect? Is it what are we celebrating? And all those questions.
There is a question related to this that I wanted to bring up, because I was wondering, I mean, obviously the best way to think about movement issues is to see them entangled, but I'm just wondering about whether participants in other social movements have as much problem with these issues as the vegan movement. I mean, for example, the environmental, the people in the environmental movement, is Christmas a particularly difficult time for them? You kind of think, well, why would it be? You might think the people in the anti-capitalist movement might look at the conspicuous consumption going on, and that would be upsetting. But it seems as though for the vegan movement in particular, this time is a very visceral time in terms of having it kind of thrown in your face. You know what I mean? Which you kind of think that people in other movements probably don't really have as much. I mean, does that make sense?
Yes, because we worry almost about everything. For example, I was ordering a Christmas gift for my niece, and I thought about the other animals, so I was, of course, choosing something vegan. And then I thought of child labor and who made these items and what kind of consequences my buying her a present has. So it's for vegans, it's even more complicated. And I always find solace to the fact that we do the best we can. We buy the best we can, for example, from something secondhand or from an ethical company. We do activism. We do a lot of stuff. We are not inactive. And one of the things that used to help me around this time of the year is organizing or participating in more outreach events than usual. And actually, many activists attended these events. It felt kind of powerful for all of us to be together, and it felt that we are doing something specific to stop oppression. But unfortunately, we won't be able to do it because of COVID this year. But I found that doing activism helps a lot. You don't feel helpless.
Yeah, it's like connecting to your purpose, isn't it? I think it's one of the ways that we find real meaning and connection in our lives. I think it's a real indicator of people who are often healthy and happy obviously we're not happy all the time, but I mean, generally we have better well-being when we are connected to a purpose. And I think all of us on here, and I'm sure everyone who's watching now feels that sense of purpose and connection. And when you are active within that purpose and acting for change, a positive change in the world, and especially when it's connected to something much bigger than you, there's a real sense of that, you know, there's a reason and meaning behind your life. And I think that helps to give you resilience in order to keep going through the hard stuff. Because, you know, everyone, you know, people will say, oh yeah, being vegan's easy, which the decision is easy. And once you're vegan, you know that there's no other choice for you. But navigating some of the issues that we do is not always that easy. But I think it gives you that resilience, having that connection to that deep purpose, I would say.
Yeah, and we can tie those in with the year, you know, tie it into, you know, evolving our traditions. Welcome, Tim. Tim's been arranging the VegFest UK online summits, which have been great. So you can check that out on the VegFest UK page. I know Roger and Nella took part in those yesterday. During EID this year, some vegan family members were required to perform the ritual sacrifices due to absence of family members with COVID. I found washing up the turkey dish challenging enough when a guest 15 years ago, fam no longer invite me to Christmas. Who wants a vegan at the table? Apart from the turkey, of course. So a reference to turkeys generally being vegan, yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome, Tim. Jennifer, if Jennifer's still in the chat, we'll be very thrilled that Tim Barford's here, because Jennifer, being Irish, likes the way that the English say the word Barford. So it always gives her a bit of a laugh when I say Tim Barford. I don't know why, but it's just,
how would Jennifer say it?
It's how I can't do the kind of Dublin accent. It's flatter. I can't describe. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to get her to record it for you.
Lucy's just talking about having a completely vegan meal as we won't be visiting the rest of my family. The last few years I've avoided visiting family, always get a negative reaction from them. It gets worse every year. And I think that's the thing, is I think that initial reaction, and it probably goes back to our relationship with our family in general, but depending on that initial discussion around veganism, they could start to be supportive and more supportive, or go the other way with it. There's a lot of factors, and especially if you're the only vegan in the family, it could be particularly challenging.
Families can be cruel places for some people.
Not that we're opposing cruelty, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean,
animal use, not animal cruelty.
Not just for vegan reasons, but I mean, you know, they can be cruel places, families.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just, Elliot, on the note of people not enjoying the consumption of their flesh, I remember when I was going to loads of effort to make a turkey-style seitan dish, and then my bro said that turkey isn't even good. So I think that's your point, Roger. We do a lot of these things, and we haven't even seriously considered the alternative, let alone who are these things impact, meaning the animals. And I think that's it, providing a solution, isn't it? Also around Passover, the most difficult festival, because it's supposed to be about celebrating the Exodus and the Jews being freed from slavery and oppression in Egypt, and their slaves are on the table. So that kind of, I don't know if I'm allowed to say dovetail, that connects with the kind of Christmas theme. You know, what are these events really celebrating? Erfin just said, my family makes sure to have vegan options for me. I don't care about just having options. I want them to stop serving meat at all. But they're trying to be considerate, and I hate seeming ungrateful. So that's a delicate one to balance. The thing this keeps coming back to for me is asking ourselves what we're comfortable with, and then finding a way to clearly communicate that to our family, and not kind of compromising on ourselves, which I know can be difficult when family's entangled with that. I don't know if anybody wants to add on that one before we just kind of blitzing through these, but and the animal lover topic kind of keeps coming up. A lot of people, I think, do have non-vegan family members, and Chris is just saying one of the hardest feelings for people that are vegan for many years in family, do not understand the animal ethics advocacy, is the feeling of anger many times. Vegan people at meat-eating gatherings, even if respected by not being laughed at, have also vegan food at the table, have to struggle with the bad feelings on loved ones, eating other persons beyond them. So organizing alternative vegan events in every other city or even neighborhood is very important. I mean, you could even, in addition to the outreach events idea, you could have a vegan meal, couldn't you? And just you all meet for your vegan meal and then go back and hang out with your families after the mealtime. Because I think the cumulative trauma is very real.
I think a couple of people brought up that point that I think people do feel, because I have this in my own family, they've always been very supportive and respectful in the way that they accommodate me. They try to understand it. We'll always have, even from being a young kid, when I said, Mom, I'm not eating meat anymore. She was like, okay, that's fine. And she just really supported me. But I think in doing that, they feel that they are supporting you, and yet they don't quite understand that it's not quite enough for you because of everything else you're dealing with. And I think that is a really tough situation, because like my dad, he still says, people have always done this. I don't see what's wrong with it. Most of the world don't see there's anything wrong with this. I don't see there's anything wrong with it. And it's just almost like there's a block there to even see it from my point of view. So it's a very difficult conversation sometimes, but they do feel like they're being supportive in their own way because they're providing you with options, and you have your own, I've put that in a separate place and I cooked it in a separate tin, and all of that stuff. So I totally get what I think it was Chris was saying there. Yeah. Brian might be coming to say hello. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of family, this is another option for who we can spend our holidays with. They don't have to be necessarily human animals. We can spend time with our fellow animals.
Even better.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself feeling really low about during the holiday season, other vegans are always there for you and other activists. So don't hesitate, call someone. Have a cup of coffee, do something together, or connect over the phone if you're not living in the same city. And this year, we will have Roger's extravaganza to attend during Christmas Day. So would you like to talk about that, Roger?
I would, yes. I was thinking because as a sociologist, I've written and vlogged, I think is the phrase, about the difficulty for vegans to be in their family, and the family relations can be difficult. In particular, this issue about if you're a vegan advocate and you have success in talking to people, you might have the least success talking to your family. So families can be a difficult place, especially if you want to be an advocate, that kind of stuff. And so this time of year obviously is going to exacerbate all that and just get everything kind of worse in a way. So I thought, well, let's just do like a hangout. So I'm planning to do a hangout on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, and probably starting around about noon, and we'll just go possibly till 6 or whenever we run out of steam. I'm hoping to bring a series of friends and guests and that into it. So if you want to be included in all that, then contact me privately. And then the idea then would be to give kind of lonely or isolated vegans a place to be on Christmas Day. Whereas, if they need to, they can get away from the family and they can just kind of join the vegan community for a while. And it might be that, that could be the time when the rest of the family are having their main dinner, So I just want to try and kind of create a virtual safe space for vegans, because I do know it's particularly stressful time, especially for the newer vegans who are still kind of going through all this. Because I think that it's a kind of make or break thing. I think sometimes you can feel more resolved in your veganism because of your experiences over Christmas. At the same time, it could be that whilst you do that, you lose respect for your family or some family members and stuff, especially the ones who are narky and snarky about it and are particularly difficult. So I think there's a lot of things that can go on for vegans around this kind of time. I mean, like back to the activist days, it used to be the fact that we were sabbing a lot in those days. So it was a really busy time, Christmas, you know. So you'd be sabbing on Boxing Day. So you'd be planning all that, you know. And so it was really kind of a go type of thing. And so you could almost like rush through Christmas in the activist community. But obviously now we're talking something different. So this is just going to try and create a bit of space, and that's the plan. So I'm going to try and advertise that around and see if we can get a few people there.
I think it's a great idea. Let us know what your opinion in the comments.
You're all welcome. By the bell, I go, you're all welcome. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Ding dong, ding 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 ding.
Shake your little bell, Roger, like that.
Yeah, the town crier. That's a great Scott Milligan joke, you know. Ding ding ding, stolen one bell. That's what they go.
I think it's such a great idea, Roger, and thank you for doing that as well, putting on a safe space. I think that's such a powerful thing to do for people. And that's, with that in mind, I'm just wondering, like, we're going back to the whole thing about having someone to contact, share with, express your emotions to, without judgment and with empathy. Like, looking at that from the other side, is there anyone you can reach out to? Is there anything you can do to help others? Because you might feel actually quite strong and resilient, but you might have space to help someone else who might not be. So not only looking at who you can reach out to, but can you be a person who other people reach out to, or can you create an environment that might help another vegan out there as well?
I think it's important to remember that even though we've seen a massive increase in veganism, plant-based eating, whatever you want to call it, there's still going to be a lot of people who are really isolated, you know, and they're going to be vulnerable at this time. So if
Tone's got a success story here. Daughter's plant-based, son will eat whatever's put in front of them. No extended family. So there's a success story there. So if you have other success stories, I think those are important to share too, versus just kind of the challenges. Mm. And I think Deb's reiterating that point around having vegan friends nearby to connect with. And I think Wendy's point is excellent around reaching out to others, because just because we feel okay doesn't mean others necessarily are. And I think by reaching out, it kind of creates that mutual connection. We might find in the future that we would benefit from that too, and navigating those kind of get-togethers. And glad to hear that the discussion's been helpful. We do kind of peg these things for about an hour. So just to catch up on a few of these comments real quickly. Feeling similar to Nella, Jennifer saying that felt better at last Christmas, being able to work at the vegan stalls in town. So really kind of putting that energy to something productive. I find that with animal advocacy in general. George has an excellent point to draw a parallel, that if you're a member of an LGBTQ plus community and not out, if you're not safe and don't come out, etc., may lead you to being homeless, cut off, etc. So don't isolate yourself. So I think really trying to think long term with these things, because our discussions with our family, obviously, as we all know, sometimes obviously have ramifications.
Such a good point, George. Yeah.
And just building on that, the isolation because of veganism, rather than trying to create connections, and maybe don't argue at the table, speak with them when it's less likely to get defensive. I think that's the whole idea behind the Liberation Pledge.
I actually know a friend of mine who won't talk about veganism at the dinner table with others. And he actually sort of preemptively tells people, "I'm not going to talk about it because you may get defensive." And that, I don't know, maybe that's not for everyone, but
yeah, and inviting, asking people, do you want to, do you genuinely want to discuss this topic? Because I'm happy to talk about it, but we'll have to set the ground rules, kind of. Yeah. Talking about background TV, so could put the show on in the background, and hopefully an animal rights message will subconsciously from your live stream, Roger.
Subliminal
There's a good advocacy
power.
technique. trickles through.
You shall go vegan.
You're going to hypnotize them, Roger. Work on your hypnosis.
And maybe Nella can update Deb on her cat situation in the comments. I'm thinking maybe afterwards.
Oh yes,
because there's a bit of a story there. And yeah, it sounds like great buy-in for your idea, Roger. I think the one thing that I'd add is, if I can find it here, happening right now, starting at 7 p.m. For those of you who aren't familiar with Silco, co-authored Afroism, which I know for me has been one of the most influential books I've read from animal issues space, as well as how it entangles with human issues, and how it can actually build on our animal advocacy and not limit it like some in the movement would like to have us believe. So that is starting, if you search Facebook for at philosopher1923 or something close to that, you'll have to drill in a little bit their top post, links to an event page, and then the one on the far right, you click that and then you register. You should be able to get into the Zoom call. I know that's where I'm headed next because I think it's going to be a great discussion to help, because I know that's something, in addition to getting the rights-based message out there, something that the show is passionate about, is that entanglement. So yeah, specifically the description being, are animal advocates wrong to draw parallels between phenomena like racism, sexism, and speciesism, which it's a good topic to explore.
Just got one last question for Roger. Roger, you know you showed us that clip of the King of Rock and Roll doing the outreach for Violife with Violife newsletter. Are you going to do the Elvis version of that next? I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
You left the worst to the end, did you?
Pretty sure Elvis.
Boom, boom. I'll get my coat.
All right.
I think that, you probably should.
With that, I think I know this has just been a bit of a highlight tour of some of these key issues here, but hopefully I found the conversation helpful. I know, and hopefully others have too. Keep it going in the comments. I mean, we can connect between these shows in addition to the live shows, especially in the YouTube comments after the video publishes, because there will be more likely to be seen there. And just reach out. We could maybe create a little bit of an activist buddy network through the show where people connect and touch base with each other on the holidays on a more close basis.
Stay vegan, folks. Stay healthy. Right. I will get my coat. I'm going now.
Time says don't step on my green L tap.
Close it down. Save me, Jeremy. Close it down.
See everyone next time. Bye.
Bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.